more presenting to people on internal things and consensus building. Consensus building is very tiring work.
Because it requires a consensus among people of various intellects.
This actually is like right on the topic.
Oh.
No, consensus building is hard because some people are fucking idiots.
Right, that's what I was trying to say it in a nice way. You know how many F words I've used this week? I think I felt like I had used them up. I was like, I'm not going to swear when I just say that, you know. Maybe they're fucking stupid.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. But that's why it's hard. Like, I'd rather have people disagree with me, like, that are smart.
Yeah.
Because usually, if we start talking, we won't always agree.
Right.
Because I might be wrong. Or one of us may not have all the same information. Right?
True.
And there may just be some unresolvable thing. That also might happen, right? But, like, you can talk to it. But, like, if a stupid person is just disagreeing, it's like, my brother in Christ.
my brother.
Here is the evidence. Yes, but my feelings. And that's unresolvable.
Right. Also, you can't, what blue-collar comedian, you can't fix stupid, right?
Yeah. Is that Bill Engels or something like that?
I don't remember which one, but it's true.
That's one thing with Carl and I, like, during some of our bonfires, like, my son is there. So we've been playing, like, a ton of YouTube comedy, like, classic comedy bits.
Yeah.
So I've had great occasion to go and watch, like, very funny comedy bits. Like, we showed him Chris Rock. He had no idea about who Chris Rock was. Like, select Dave Chappelle.
Sure.
Just hilarious. You know what I mean? Some of the funniest stuff. And, like, we just end up, like, dying laughing. Cracking ourselves up about something that was, you know, it's from, like, God, 30 years ago now.
Does he, does Jordan, like, does he get it? Does he find it funny? Or is it just some old people
He
laughing
doesn't always
around
get
a fire?
all of it.
Right.
You can tell. And so we'll just, like, you won't understand that. But, like, I mean, the Chris Rock stuff, it's very to a kid that's 14, like, he gets it.
Yeah. No, that's good. So that's where your head's been at? Like, consensus building with idiots for dummies? Yeah. Like,
well, here's how it came up. You've been kind of, like, in my neighborhood sometimes, so you've seen the area. Mm-hmm. You've been to Sense Pizza.
Yeah. That's my favorite place.
So, you know that scrubby-ass lot that's right next door to it with, like, tire marks through it and mud everywhere?
Sure.
Okay, there has been, it's called My Place. It's like a development company. Mm-hmm. They've bought that land, and they're trying to build an apartment building there.
Yeah.
Because it's right on Lorraine Avenue. It's like a thoroughfare, a major commercial thoroughfare, right?
Sure.
And you can tell by the buildings that remain, like, at one point, that was a brick building, commercial shops and apartments above it, right? Like,
sure.
Totally standard. There are people, there's another one on West 45th. People in my neighborhood are literally having the biggest cow about, oh my God, apartments. Like, well, I'm like, okay, so what? I'm trying to build a consensus, like, in a gentle way.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wouldn't it be cool, actually, to have more people around? Because that would probably justify more shops and restaurants and cool bars and stuff, right? Yeah, but where are they all going to park? Well,
parking is a concern.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Look on the street right now. There's nobody there. Oh, you might have to walk a block.
Oh, my God.
Oh, heavens.
See,
no, not the dreaded 1 block walk.
I have made a critical error this week by saying, like, oh, I'm not really sure about parking, and now it's been like a referendum around my neck that I can't park a vehicle. So
you can always park.
Sure.
You might have to walk.
Yeah.
It's never killed anyone.
Don't, because now I'm going to have to, like, just someone just walking across the crosswalk or something. I'm going to have to find evidence.
You're going to have to kill them. You're like, I got to prove him wrong.
I got to get in the paper. Yeah, so consensus building amongst people who are either idiots and or, I'm not trying to stereotype at a certain age, but people don't like change.
True.
Like, fundamentally. And they reject it no matter how dumb the argument. And it is an emotional one, like you said. Like, how do you combat someone that's coming at it from the least logical way?
Because if you remove that pillar from their argument, right?
Sure.
They've got other things there, usually.
Like,
so in the apartment example, it's like, well, yeah, but that's going to block the sun. I'm like, of the people next door? Like, yeah, they'll be looking down into their yard. I'm like, it's a city, right? Like, if that's your highest standard of, life.
But that's bullshit. They don't care about other people. They don't give a shit.
They care about themselves.
Yes.
And I've heard all manner of, like, well, the kinds of people that would, both ends, they're either going to be all rich living in those super expensive apartments, or
crime.
They're poor.
Yeah,
they won't. And it's like, okay, it can't be both.
Can it?
And right. This and everything else, right?
Simultaneously.
Like, it's change. I'm like, so you prefer this scrubby lot that kids do burnouts in, and like the psycho 4-wheeler kids like congregate there sometimes, and like that's what you prefer? Because I know what I am against. I'm against the psycho 4-wheeler kids.
You should put that on a sign.
And the idiots who drive their pickups, like, who come into the city either in Dodge Challengers or huge pickups and just like, Wah.
I like how you specifically cited Dodge Challengers.
Have you seen anyone who drives a Dodge Challenger who's like not a midwit?
I have only seen one, and he works with us. But I will say I heard a rumor that when our building was being built, he went over to, just check it out because he was, I don't know if he was part of the whatever. First fucking thing he did when they put that asphalt down was do a huge fucking burnout in our new lot. And so, yes.
I was that way once, but I have evolved, hopefully, at least in that area.
I was going to say, you have the capacity to both change and accept change.
When I was 18, I drove a 1970 Mercury Cougar.
Oh, my God.
And there's a maniac.
I can see it. But, like, the thing that bothers me about the Challengers or the Chargers, it might be the Charger.
The Chargers are the 4-door ones. The Challengers are the 2-door ones.
Okay. There's no difference to me, fundamentally, except that the dumbasses that fucking drive those cars, they leave the stupid packing. All right, so there's these weird, like, built-ins in the bottom, and they leave the stuff from the shipping container on. It's these yellow strips.
Really?
Yeah. Anytime you see a Charger or a Challenger, look and see if they took the packing material off their fucking car, because they think
like where, under the door or something.
No, it's like it's on the back bumper. It's mainly on the front. It's these tiny strips.
Oh, okay.
Across it. It's meant
That's
to.
An odd concern. I'm more concerned about the decibel level of the exhaust.
No, I'm not saying it's a concern.
Oh.
I'm just saying that when I see that, and they're like, "Oh, that's like cool. That's like a feature." No, it's a bug. Like that's fucking shipping, plastic. I know this because when I used to work at this other company, this kid, I literally call him the kid, bought.
Same kid who is the.
Yes, the one that bought me that, an engineer, and he bought himself a new Challenger, or Charger. He bought himself a new Charger. And, he was telling me about the community and, like, all that other stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
The community?
You guys,
That's the term he used?
They have a community.
Well, it's just like the guys who put the stickers in their back windows, right?
Right. But he told me about this. He said when he took his car off the lot, the guy that was selling him a car didn't know what those... He was like, what the hell are these yellow things? He got a purple Charger. And he's like, this is fucking stupid. And he's like, oh, that's the shipping stuff. Like, you can take that off, like, later. And then all I saw ever since, over the last 5 or 6 years, are these stupid motherfuckers driving around. It makes me doubt their intelligence. That's what I'm saying. Not, I care about if they're doing burnouts in your neighborhood, yes. But, sorry, you brought up Challenger specifically. But anyways, so, I don't know. It's tough. It depends on, like, out of obligation for whatever you're trying to gain a consensus for, how long do you keep entertaining the stupidity?
Before you, if you have power, just like snatching the wheel and going, okay, I'm driving now. We're just going to do it the right way. You're all going to be happy. Trust me, you're going to be happy. And they're like, but we're not happy.
And they're going to pick it up.
And it's like, of course, because we just started. You're going to get used to it.
Right.
And that's called fascism, people tell me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are those people the same people that are in the room being emotional about a couple of buildings?
They use the word fascism a lot, but not in that context, because I don't have power in that situation, right?
Right.
They see fascists behind all the trees and everything.
Right.
And there's a lot of fascists downtown, they tell me. I'm
but
like, who? Like, the people, all these developers, they're practically fascists. I'm like, do you know one of these souls? Do you know a single person involved with this?
Yeah.
They do not.
Obviously not.
Dear listener, they do not.
I think we've said this before, and not even on the podcast. I think just you and I in person. Just people always need something to fucking complain about.
Well, that's a God-given right.
It is a God-given right. That doesn't mean you have to exercise it so ridiculously at all points, especially when it comes to progress or change or literally anything that really doesn't impact them and might benefit them, but they don't care because either they've been rub shoulders with somebody who feels very strongly about it and they're like, I do too. And then it lights up like a fucking fire.
It's also because we sometimes, I'll say we, including me,
mm-hmm.
lack a productive way to have conversations about hypotheticals. Wouldn't it be nice if this were to happen, right? It's hard for us to say that, so we'll just complain about the way it is as a way of moving a conversation into what could be or what we like that. That's a productive way to do it, right?
Sure.
But instead it becomes, let's just nitpick what be. And then it just, you know what I mean? It gets really mired, and I don't know. It does get a little old sometimes of the let's fix it. It's hard to get off that exit, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's once you go down the just fucking griping about everything and not being productive at all or positive.
Well, both of those things, I mean, that's the American way. America. Yeah, I wish trying to get somebody to understand, even if you're not in charge, even if you're not the fascist in the room today, even if you're not the fascist in the room in this situation, like trying to get somebody on the same page, let alone the same book as you, and kind of hitting your head against the wall is probably pretty frustrating too. Doesn't that generate some emotion for you as well? Yeah,
we lack a lot of commonality across many fronts. Common just references in a lot of cases.
Sure.
Common values, and it's pretty...
a lot of cases.
It's very apparent in many cases. But when you don't have any of those commonalities, it's very hard to build from, right? Because you have some people who literally are just trying to shirk work and just smoke weed all day, or create a world where people can do that and it's totally cool.
Sure.
I don't know. That probably isn't a popular thing to say, but I'm against that viewpoint. And
that lifestyle?
Yeah.
Well, when you frame it like that, I think a lot of people would agree with you in that the way of just literally living your life for nothing but pot and feeling nothing.
Well, or there's joy too, right? But no.
Mainly nothing.
What probably. Joy is available to a person like that?
Well, and that might be the reason for all the pot. You don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know. But I feel like these people that you're talking about are, I don't know, I feel like they're our parents' age. Am I wrong about that?
No, a lot of these people are people like just old enough to be looked down on me as like 5-6 years older.
Wow.
People who should know better, but they're just enough. Like their parents grew up a certain way.
Sure.
And they grew up a way. And by the way, look at the demographics of this country and geography of like where people were. Those boomers were like truly living different lives than like anyone who came before them.
Sure.
And the Gen X people are kind of like, they know nothing else in a certain way. So like, they're like, well, yeah, this is the way it's supposed to be. The boomers are like still mad about it because they remember what came before and they're like, that was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, not even everybody could afford a Sears home that came off the fucking, lot and some AstroTurf, my grandparents, or my dad's parents. I was trying to be specific that it's not my mother's parents.
Okay. I was like, yeah, well, you said it as if they were different. I was like, yeah, your dad's parents, those are your grandparents.
No, I just wanted to be very, I mean, they're long since dead, but I just wanted to be very clear. And they lived in a Sears home or like it. Every home looked the same, kind of like the street that I live on, out in Avon Lake. But you go down the street, and there's a
When
mansion.
you say a Sears home, then you're not talking about a Craftsman.
Huh?
So when you say Sears home, in my head, I was thinking of like a neighborhood built in like the 1920s with the Sears Craftsman style house, which is actually a type of
it like comes in a kit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did, yes, but a Sears Craftsman house is actually I think a beautiful template.
Oh.
When you say Sears home, I detect you're talking about something built in like the 60s or 70s.
Maybe the 40s or 50s. That's what I'm thinking of.
You're going to have to Google for me.
I will. But my point that I was trying to make is that on one street in Avon Lake, kind of fancy, I consider it a fancy, rich area. But from one street to another, people live completely different lives. That was the point I was trying to make. Where it's like they had, within walking distance, the same amenities and things like that. But like it was almost segregated. And nobody wanted to fix, and I mean segregated amongst white people, between the middle class, lower middle class, and upper class people. I think someone, years ago, they wanted to try and flood in, like, and put in a new pool or like whatever for the community. And it was the same arguments. It was an emotional one where it's like, yeah, but the kids from this street will be at the pool at the same time as the kids from this street. And well, we couldn't possibly have that amongst white people. But I don't know. It's just a fear. It's just a fear of change. But like, how are you going to convince them otherwise that it's going to be fine?
I mean, I have some ideas.
Like what? Calling them all stupid? I don't know.
No, that's not it. That's not it. No, I was kind of joking, but I was like, it used to be like the common references for people. TV, when there were only like 3 channels.
Sure.
And everyone watched the same things.
Sure.
Prior to that, the Bible. It was a piece of literature that a huge amount of people like had reference to. They may not have known it deeply, but they knew like the outline of the Jesus story.
Yeah.
That he turned water into wine.
Sure.
And like some of the key parables. And probably even either intuited or literally had someone spell out like that parable is about this. You know what I mean? And people had like kind of a, whether it worked or not, they did have that reference so they could talk to each other about things.
Sure.
And use that as a reference.
Yeah. I might challenge that, but did you have a third one?
The Bible.
Well, that was your second one. Okay, good. I think I understand what you're saying. I can't necessarily relate to it because I wasn't, of that period. But like the people who grew up in that type of environment, like one would expect that, the whole love thy neighbor shit would carry through. But they're like, well, no, it'll block the sun for other people. You know what I mean? And they put up these stupid arguments that have nothing to do with their neighbors or the community at large. They only care about themselves. And like, how do you get people to give a shit about something other than themselves?
Yeah. All I'm saying is at least then you had an argument that those people had to reckon with.
Sure.
Which is, hey, this thing called the Bible? That you read? Yes. I'm very good at Bible reading.
Very good.
And you know, remember this story? Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
Read
Oh,
good.
then surely you know this one. Love, turn the other cheek and all that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
At least you had that there. These days, I think a lot of people, even the people who say like, oh, I'm a follower of Christ and all these things, they may not know like the actual references.
Sure. No, I think
They may not know the stories.
now maybe they're more Old Testament, like an eye for an eye.
No, but, well, that's a great point. They may even have heard the same stories, but because they read it in such a narrow context and not everyone knows the story to develop the same understanding of like the meaning of it, the same takeaway.
Sure.
That they may look at it and may have had some weird pastor or something like teach them like the selfish reading of it.
Yeah. No, I get that. So how are you going to convince these old fucks to
They're not even that old. They're like 45.
how are you going to convince these people?
I mock them. Just
That's not going to work.
so hard.
That's not going to work, I don't think.
One of them, I think, has a conflict of interest, too. So I use that to browbeat her.
Because they want the... God. Because she wants the spot for business? It's already being developed,
No,
yeah?
Her husband works for one of the rivals of, like, in terms of commercial development.
Oh, my God.
And I noticed that his name is not on any of the documents and any of the
Sure.
official complaints. It's always his wife. And so I did a little research, like, why is this? Like, usually the people who comment have something to say or some background. So I started, like, they're in some sort of development or neighborhood organization, or they have some frame of reference that gives them a little clout.
Yeah.
Or they just say, I'm a neighbor, I don't like this. But this person was, like, writing reams and reams of dissertation level, like, architecture level stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, this lady must have some standing. So I started to research her, and, like, no, she works at a clothing store. Like, she has her own shop, basically, which is fine. But it has nothing to do with, like, doctorate-level architecture stuff. So then I happened to see who her husband was, and I did a little research on him.
There you go.
There you go.
So how are you going to sell this? Like, how do you convince somebody who is either... I mean, it's probably... I feel frustrated even just thinking about situations, like, even with myself. Like, trying to explain something to someone as simply and concisely as possible, and they look at me like I'm fucking crazy. Like, they don't get it at all. And it's one thing to just be like, well, you know what? If they don't get it, they never will. Like, every 90s sitcom ever written, when you have the spouses having a communication breakdown, and of course it's always the female. It's always the female that's frustrated and emotional and says, if you don't get it, I'm not going to explain it to you. And the husband says something stupid and everybody fucking laughs and no one learns anything. So 90s sitcom.
Usually the foolishness of the father thwarts, is his own undoing or something like that. And
it's a shield. Yeah.
He learns some lesson that never carries over to the next week.
Right. Sorry, next week episode, he does it all over
Dumbass
again.
dummy, he does
Dumb
dumbass
things.
thing again.
Yes, exactly. But, like, I don't know. I mean, if you care about the community, which it seems like you do, I think you do.
Yeah. I love it, honestly. Here's the thing. In this case, there's a third party, which, they have some name like Architectural Commission or Landmark Commission or some stupid name like that, right?
Yeah.
It's a governing board of people who, for all I know, are either high-minded, priests of our technocratic age, or money-grubbing simps who just
nowhere in between.
Accept cash bribes. There's maybe someone in between, but it's either the lowest of the low or the highest of the high. The fact that they do such stupid stuff and take so long to make any decision makes me think that they tend towards the lower end.
Yeah.
They eventually make the decision, right? So what's sad is you have something that could truly benefit a ton of people. And you have like 8 people who are super loud, complaining and blocking everything.
Right.
So the trick is not burning myself out talking to the 8 people.
Right.
Because I probably will not win. You go directly to the board. You show them that there is actually a silent consensus. Make them believe that one way or the other. Because honestly, there's a ton of people who don't really care that much, or
right. Either way, right?
Don't understand, or
don't want to.
I mean, I happen to believe places like where I live are either going up or down. And this is happening to be going up now after many years of going the other direction.
Sure.
And we know what happens down that road, right? And
right.
I don't really think you can put stuff under glass and just let it stay the same, especially in development. It just doesn't happen. It'll stay the same, but the prices go way up. That's not good for anyone, right? So increasing supply, I think, is long-term best for everyone. But if I truly believe that some of it involves just like letting the good things happen, doing it slowly enough that people, the temperature will rise slowly. Yes, there'll be difficulty because change at first sucks and there's cost of change that you have to pay for up front. But eventually it will improve and those people will all see the benefit.
That's your hope.
That's a hope. Or I could cry and make myself upset.
Get very upset. Yeah.
I have a friend. Her name is Angie Schmidt. She lives sort of in my neighborhood, but more of like a Twitter friend, I guess. Mm-hmm. She wrote an interesting book about pedestrians, but smart person. I saw her write something today, and she referenced this other article. I can't think of the name of the person, but it was basically this woman who's like a doctor at Case Western.
Sure.
And essentially, the argument was this. You have to treat these dumbasses. She didn't say it like this, but I'm going to paraphrase. Okay. You have to treat these dumbasses as though you were a benevolent doctor and they were a patient.
Right.
You have to nudge them, but you have to do so with a lot of humility, right? Because you might be wrong.
Right.
And they may have other calculus that they are operating on in which your advice that seems so straightforward is just one input among many.
Sure. Screaming emotional voices in their own head.
Which basically means you have to just like be okay with the fact that you did your part and like kind of agree to live and let live.
Maybe.
That was the argument. This was in the Atlantic, so.
Wow. Well, it's very fancy. But yeah, I mean, maybe that is true, but the people who are screaming the loudest, unfortunately, tend to get hurt.
Yeah.
And so even though you're not like the head, like the chief fascist in the room, when you're dealing with people who are either indifferent, ignorant, and or just incompetent, you have to keep trying. Yeah. If you want it bad enough, if you think it's right and it's a good thing, not just for your own reasons, you have to keep trying, even if it's frustrating and you can't explain anything to a dumbass, but they don't really want to learn. So now you're stuck
with the Chris Rock.
What?
That's when we were showing my son the Chris Rock stuff. It's like there's nothing that makes so and so happier than not knowing the answer to your question.
I'm sure they're very content.
I did have one other burning question.
Yeah?
What in God's name is going on with all of the in-transit license plates, many of which have a date on them which is expired months ago?
Hey, people are trying...
Do people not get pulled over anymore?
All right, you pulled in my driveway, and 35 minutes later, you're coming for me.
Is yours expired?
No. Well, it will be.
So that's the tricky thing. Is like,
I don't have any control over getting that.
No, but look around and count to yourself.
Yeah.
There are so many people. Maybe it's because I've been driving like on the east side a lot more lately.
Yeah.
To go and pick up my son.
Their tags are expired?
Or they have no plates at all, or they just clearly printed that thing off and just I'm serious.
Like
I don't think anyone gets arrested anymore. I don't think cops pull people over before like 10 p.m.
Well, I would like to believe that if you're going to come for somebody, hopefully it's more important than somebody's plates. Like I mean, I'm assuming the tax money.
This is a society with laws, not a.
Well, I understand that.
Do you think criminals who murder people like just wake up and murder, or do they graduate to it by?
Do you think those? Oh my gosh!
Achieving smaller and smaller.
I like how that. I mean, that's quite a leap. That's quite an escalation from having expired tags to murder.
Everyone starts somewhere.
Stop. Get out of here.
But I'm serious though. It is, I think, a marked increase in people who are unlicensed, unregistered driving. I notice it everywhere now. I'm like, there's no way that there are like 300 cars that I pass on the way to work every day, and like 30 of them are just bought their car this month.
Well, can I tell you one thing about, and I think it's a good thing, so don't take me the wrong way. An hour and a half south from here, you don't have to do a fucking e-check. You don't need to do shit. In Cleveland, even if it's free to people to go get an e-check. You cannot get your registration without performing an e-check on your vehicle.
A libertarian argument.
I didn't make an argument.
That was a libertarian argument.
I'm stating facts.
Too much red tape, government red tape.
It's not. It's literally one extra step. It's free. Like, literally doesn't cost you anything, and there are places everywhere.
That's literally a libertarian argument, though.
But people would rather not do that and risk getting pulled over. And at some points, I mean, seriously, like, if you treat your vehicle registration like that, what about your license? Like, you could, like, get everything taken from you. Like, your license won't be able to drive anywhere, you can't get to work. And yet, people don't really seem that concerned.
Unless you're like, haha, joke's on you. I wasn't going to get a driver's license anyway.
Oh, we're supposed to get one of those?
I had no intention of insuring this car.
Right.
It costs nothing.
Well, and insurance. But I think all these things are important, and the emissions on a vehicle. But if these vehicles are pieces, even remotely pieces of shit that need work, you will not pass your e-check until you get it fixed, which costs money. So, which is the bigger risk? Like, I can't afford to get my car fixed right now, so I'm just going to leave it as a registration. I'm not saying that's everybody across the board, but I am saying that at least I know a couple of those people, even in my own neighborhood. It's just kind of like, oh, this is like 2021 on there. Like, what? Whoa, right? And it's just like, there's a problem with the fucking catalytic convert, or whatever. And
yeah, that's the one that kills it, because
you can't.
If someone stole that from them, you have to have those on there to pass an e-check.
Right. So, I'm just saying, I'm not making a judgment about the neighborhood or whatever, wherever you're seeing these vehicles.
I'm not even trying to like attack the people who don't do it. I think they are reacting to stimulus or lack of stimulus. And in this case, no one is getting pulled over for like anything these days. Like, even my son told me, like,
other than speeding?
I don't even think that.
I see a lot of that.
I see none of that. I haven't seen a cop pull someone over. Like, my son, so he told me he got off the train yesterday.
Yeah.
And he said that he saw 3 people run the stop sign at like
25th?
Woodhill and like 119th.
Okay.
Like, waiting to cross the street. Like, people just like sort of slowing down, looking both ways, and just driving across. This is a street that he was about to cross, which is why he was like, they've got a red, I've got to walk. I can,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's anarchy out there.
It's kind of anarchy at this point.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have any solutions for that. That would take more beverages.
It's just a burning question.